Really excited that you're here to join us today for our panel Beyond Animation, What's Next for Creative Graduates. So this is actually the 10th year of Curtains Underground, so we're really excited to celebrate an entire decade of uncovering animated stories from Southeast Asia. So for those of you who are new to Curtains Underground, we are first and foremost an animation festival. We showcase animated films both locally, internationally. We have different programs. I think that yesterday night was actually our premiere. So for those of you who have a ticket, if you're here in the panel, you have a ticket. You can actually, and you missed yesterday's premiere, you can actually still go back and watch on demand last night's premiere. But aside from the premiere, we also are running a story development workshop. It's actually happening right now at SCAPE. And I believe we are also maybe being streamed live there as well. Yeah. And finally, we do have some exciting Q&A panels, including this one. So today's panel, I think Athira will share a little bit more about it. But before that, I think I just want to share also that we do have two other panels, one on the future monetization animation, and also one that explores education's role in building a sustainable and thriving animation industry. So if you're someone that might be keen on these two topics, do consider attending our other panels as well. Yeah, over to you, Athira.
Thanks, Jess. Yeah, thanks guys for joining. I know it's a Sunday afternoon, so thank you so much for making time. So this event, this panel, basically, we've run it before and we've seen success in the past where people got to connect, network, and even get hired from this panel. So of course, it's a little bit different now having it virtual. So we're still hoping that we can get some takeaway that students can get a clearer understanding of the opportunities and even secrets that await them upon graduation. Because every year in Curtains Underground, we've just met students and graduates that seem to understand the pipeline of big animation companies, or they see it as the most direct path forward. But over the years, we are starting to see a lot of others take alternative paths, like joining production houses, advertising agencies, or even freelancing. So today's purpose, just as artists together, we'll just be having a casual open chat with some really cool panelists from animation and creative companies to further discuss the paths that students can take after they graduate from the arts. So with that, I would like to introduce our first panelist, Benjamin Ang. He is the founder of Genesis Motion Design, an internationally recognized motion graphics and animation studio. He was also selected to be in Forbes 30 Under 30 Asia 2020 under the Media, Marketing and Advertising category. So Benjamin, without giving away too much, would you like to share with our audience a little bit more about yourself?
Hi there, guys. Thanks for the very kind intro. It's really been a humbling experience, especially to speak with so many other talented people. So thanks for having me on board. I'd love to just share a little bit about ourselves. I'll just share an old but gold video that we had previously that actually speaks a bit about our voice. So take a listen.
Hello. You might have seen us. You might have heard of us. You might be wondering who we are. We align people and brands together. We listen, learn, and collaborate. We craft captivating experiences. We have a flair for knocking out creative problems. Just like Conor McGregor's spin kick, we give no respect for any obstacles in our way. We bring our A game to the table, and we always have a blast. We are Genesis.
Yeah, so that's just kind of a little bit of a breakdown on who we are, our brand as a voice, how we approach our own kind of branding and putting ourselves in this whole space of animation and motion graphics. So just kind of sharing with you a little bit more about us. Hi guys, I think it's already been introduced. My name is Benjamin Ang. I'm actually the founder of Genesis Motion Design. And we've been around since 2015. So it's been about, we are coming close to about 7 years in January. That's been quite a ride. And just as a whole kind of breakdown into how we got started is that I started my roots in Polytechnic. I graduated from NYP basically, and all I have is a diploma, and that's what I go around telling people, and I'm kind of proud of that as well. So I'm just going around, all I have is a diploma in motion graphics, and from there, during the school time of schooling, we were given an opportunity to do an internship, and I was doing a short internship in Singapore for about 3 months. I kind of learned a lot of good things, and experienced, the different, Singapore industry, the culture, and everything like that. And then moving forward, I got an opportunity to go to the US for about 3 months as well. So I went to a studio called Blind, or if you guys are familiar with the whole business of animation kind of thing, there's this thing called the Future, and it's run by Crystal. So Crystal actually runs Blind back then in the days. And so I gotten the opportunity to actually do an internship under him and his team for about 3 months, and kind of learn about the different cultures and how different people were in terms of like approaching creative concepts and mindsets and different things. So coming back to Singapore, I tried to find a place that had a unique combination of both. In the Singapore's perspective of like, getting things done, moving quickly. I couldn't really, that was something that I really enjoyed when I was in Singapore. And in the US, I enjoyed this thing called creative equality, which you kind of named it. I was kind of, as an intern, I was kind of valued for my ideas and everything as well. I was really just, and it's in Hollywood, right? So they're actually doing a lot of big projects that are big name projects, like essentially. And I was, as an intern, I felt really valued because I was approached to do ideation and storyboarding and different things like that. And it's not just, the execution. And that's something that I've always been, something that I've really enjoyed when I was there. So I came back to Singapore, freelance for a while, and I couldn't find a place that kind of spoke these different things. And so I decided to start a company that kind of represents the best parts of these two worlds. And therefore it was the genesis of this two concepts. And that's why it's called Genesis Motion Design. And just a little bit of a insight into that. This is our office. We've got about 10, 11 people now in the studio. And this is in our office in Ang Mo Kio. So yeah, just like what I mentioned, just a little bit of our brand voice. Genesis also stands for being different, trying different things out, not just following the status quo, and just kind of making proving ourselves day by day, and then just trying to proving ourselves work by work in that sense. And yeah, so we've gotten the opportunity to also work with a lot of different clients, and it ranges for quite a bit. So we're very thankful for them to trust us in our work. But we got like tech companies such as Facebook, and then like F&B companies such as McDonald's, computer gaming companies, MSI, yada yada. But it kind of jumps quite a bit. You can see car brands and different perfume brands and things like that as well. And yeah, just a bit of a breakdown. If you're interested, we have more on our website. Actually, we're still kind of developing it even further and just improving the whole UI, UX, user interface and user experience. But if you're interested to see more of our work, you can actually check on the website. Or if you want to see more, and it's easier on Instagram, it's at wearegenesis.tv. So yeah, I hope it's a good kind of round up for the quick sharing.
Thanks, Benjamin. Oh my God, that was really cool. I love the reel. That was really sick reel at the start. And thank you so much for sharing more about, where you come from and how you started on Genesis. So I wanted to ask you, as the founder of, a motion design company in Singapore, what do you expect from, young graduates or potential hirees? Do you have any kind of training or tips that you have to help them improve in their first job?
Tips for improving for graduates. I think it's really on drive, if you ask me, because I feel like we've been to a couple of like graduation shows and different things like that, and everyone does have does show the excitement through sharing their portfolio, but I feel like there's a lack of, because everyone's just kind of focused on improving their technical skills. I feel like sometimes, being confident on, presenting their work, the amount of work that they've put in, I feel that's a little bit of that's something that, students have to kind of work on. Like just kind of be confident on a little bit of, you've been putting so much effort into what you've been doing. So just kind of be, proud of that, I think.
Yeah. Did you personally struggle with this as well? Because I think I did as well, being an art student.
Yeah, for sure. I think when I started out, and I started as a freelancer back in 2014. And being a freelancer itself, you sort of have to go around and you have, but it is a route that requires you to get out of your comfort zone even more, to just kind of put yourself there in the market and just making yourself, kind of selling yourself in order to kind of secure jobs, right? And there isn't a stable income that you can rely on. And so that itself taught me to kind of learn how to speak a little bit more confidently, and yeah, just to kind of be proud of your work. And also it's not just the work, right? It's also like relationships and how you're able to build these different things. But I hope that that answers the question.
Yeah, it does. I wanted to ask if this pattern that you see of students kind of being shy about their works, is it a very local thing? Because you worked in both Singapore and LA. How different were, the motion design industries, or the students that you met, or the interns?
Yeah. So in LA, it's a very different. Everybody is graduation night and things like that. I've been to graduation shows back in LA as well, just to kind of make friends, and I was a student back then, right? So just kind of getting to know them, and the way that they're just really comfortable. They have a really open culture, and I think for Singaporeans in general, there is a lot of the culture itself is very quiet, and it's a very reserved culture. Even though we are excited, we show that more on emojis rather than actually clapping. So that's something that's that's something that's unfortunate, but it is a Singapore culture, right? And I think for most animation students or design students, we are introverts. I guess majority of us, I would say, is introverts. And whenever we're doing hiring, it's always something that we've been, personality is something that we also look at. So yeah, I mean, being an introvert is one thing, but also, that means that we have to take the extra effort to try to open yourself up a little bit more. And if it means that you have to actually go back home and take a little bit more of a rest after the event, then go ahead and do so. But it's something that I find myself doing from the very start. And I'm the type of guy that if you ask me to bring you around Singapore, I'm the worst person, because I get lost in Orchard. So you're asking the wrong guy. And even going to SCAPE, it's easier, right? But anything further than SCAPE, I think I'll get lost. So I'm the kind of guy. So yeah, I mean, just kind of understand yourself and just kind of embrace that, right? Just be comfortable in knowing that you have to take a little bit more of a break, and that's okay.
Yeah, I completely agree. Just one more small thing. Just compared to LA and Singapore, what are some important experiences that you feel like you have carried over from, either or places, or that you still keep with you till now?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's really with actually, honestly, it's with culture, and it's something that has always been and it's always been a challenge for us, I think. And starting from a small company studio with dreams. So essentially, I started the company from a freelancer transitioning to a studio. It was just myself and my two hands. So to talk things about to start thinking about culture didn't really make sense because it was just myself and maybe I started to hire one other guy, two other guys, and it's just the three of us, and we are mostly friends kind of thing. And speaking about culture, really didn't make sense to that small kind of environment. So, but I learned that as the company grew in size, that culture is something that is very necessary in terms of developing, whether it's the synergy of how you communicate within the team, or whether it's the culture of celebrating, a certain thing like Halloween or like different things like that, right? We don't have that commonly in Singapore, but it's something that's good to just set and it just have fun. It's not a good sign, but but anyways, it's something that's really important, right? And developing that culture. And so I learned in the US with the cultures that they have, they're kind of really more, even though they function as a big company, like 30, 40, 50 people, the environment around you still feels, the synergy around you kind of feels the same when you're around about like 5 to 10 people. And that's something that's really, really hard to achieve, honestly. As a studio owner, you've got to think about, how do we then create a positive environment where people can fail and not being afraid to fall. I think that's something that's really important, that we have to constantly create an environment where we encourage people to allow them to grow. And I think that's something that has it's done pretty well in the US, I would say, and sometimes in Singapore, because of the cultures we have here, like hierarchy and different expectations of you. Sometimes people around me, friends of mine, are hired in places and they find themselves needing to perform at 100% at like the first week, and that's something that without proper onboarding, and that's something like it's just about differences in culture there. And yeah, I mean, I'm just speaking in general. I'm just not putting a negative light in Singapore, but I'm just saying that it does happen in companies that don't really understand the idea of culture and don't understand the idea of valuing the people. Yeah, valuing the people, I think, because people at the end of the day drives everything else, and without people, you amount to nothing.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for all that sharing. And do you want to shout your socials one more time for people to go give you a follow?
Yeah, so it's wearegenesis.tv. That's wearegenesis.tv on our website and our Instagram. You can check us out there. We do give like lots of tips for students who are like kind of picking up, or like even technical tips. It might be helpful for you guys. And we've got a lot more. We've taken our socials been taking a pause for a little bit, but that's because we've got a lot of things ongoing, and we're excited to actually share those things with you guys. So if you guys want to catch that wave of different content and helping you guys grow, join us early so you can catch all the different contents rolling out.
Yep. Thank you so much, Benjamin.
Thank you.
Thanks, Benjamin.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Back to you, Tia.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, it's really, really inspiring to hear your journey and like really how like you built it from like your bare two hands. Like I feel like that's just, it takes incredible drive and just like go get the spirit to really bring everyone together from like you yourself all the way. I think now what I want to do is actually want to have Jolene share next. So Jolene is actually she has actually been in the industry for just about 3 years, so still within kind of like a fresh grad kind of time frame. And also because Jolene actually she's an animated illustrator. Now she's an animation lead. She's an animation lead of O+ at Our Grandfather's Story. But prior to that, she also did a stint in Genesis. So I think that's kind of like a nice link there. And later we'll have a bit more of a conversation, and I'll ask Benjamin and Jolene both, kind of their perspectives, how is it like to work in Genesis? What's it like to bring in someone into the company and build that culture? Yeah. So for Jolene, actually, she's really like a rising star. She's other than her work in O+, she's actually collaborates with even like local music scene, such as the Chamber Music and Art Singapore, through her illustration and animation work. And she's a graduate of NTU School of Arts Design Media in 2019. Yeah. So I think I'll pass the time over to Jolene now. She has some really gorgeous works that she did in OGS and beyond to share with you guys today. Yeah. Over to you, Jolene.
Thank you for the very kind introduction. And yes, also thanks for the wonderful sharing, Ben. I kind of miss hearing you talk. Can you guys see the slides properly? Just to double check.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So just to introduce myself, I'm currently working at O+ by Our Grandfather's Story as a motion graphics lead. And I do a lot of illustrations on the side. Sometimes I like to collaborate with a music artist. Sometimes I do music videos. Sometimes I handle art direction and even comics. So I say that I'm kind of like rujak. So I will start from my journey when I first graduated. So after I first graduated, I think I got an email from Ben. He asked me oh, are you interested to join? To have a chat with with me. So I went for a chat, and I kind of felt I didn't realize that Singapore had such a cool motion graphics studio. So I thought that was a good opportunity. I joined there first as an intern, and then after that I converted to full time. So that was for a year, and when I was there, I got to work with a lot of very cool clients, clients that I didn't expect that I would be able to work with. And I think that when I was a student in university, I was very bleak about my future. I was everybody says that after you graduate for animation, the truth is that you will never do animation you're going to do some other job. So I was very surprised that I could actually do that. And yeah, I had a lot of fun. So but over here I added some shampoo and more corporate stuff so that you all know that it's not everything is so cool and fun. We still had to do slightly corporate stuff. And I'll say that my turning point was because I did a collaboration with one of my friends, Vivian Yap. So she's a singer-songwriter, and she asked me to help her out this music video. So we collaborated on that. And I think from then onwards, I started getting more freelance gigs. So afterwards, I worked with Rise Media, and finally, I met my current boss. So he just texted me out of the blue. He said "Oh, are you interested for a chat?" So I went for a chat. Then he said that he was starting up this animation department in his company. He asked me whether I wanted to come to help him set this up since there were no animators in the company, etc. And I just thought that, okay, that's a very cool opportunity. And so I went in there and I was okay, so this company is good. This studio is, this department is going to be called O+. And back then I was the only animation person there. So unlike this picture, I was I felt a bit lonely compared to when I was in like a studio like Genesis Motion Design where I had so many colleagues. But yeah, that's completely fine because we slowly got like more and more people to join. I think like one of my coworker, Yan Han, is also in the Zoom call listening. So like everybody at O Plus has a part to play. Everybody is has been very important in driving the growth of the company. So I'll say that for the first year, we experimented a lot just to see what works. So we did videos about birth control, we did videos about motherhood, we even collaborated with WWF, Temasek, videos about mental health. So this is just to show like the variety of videos that we worked on. And we were like, okay, we had a lot of fun doing all this, but to be very honest, it's kind of like like a bit like too like huge variety of styles. So we wanted to start on like a video series that is like more coherent across. So right now, I would like to share one of the trailer for a series that we worked on this year, just so that you guys get a better idea.
There exists in our society a substantial group of people who are actually struggling to just live.
She asked me to pose in front of a camera.
一直都是厌恶自己的身体的。
I have to do something for this kid.
We don't see them, but it doesn't mean that they don't exist.
Okay, so that was the sharing. I hope that you guys enjoyed the trailer. In fact, you can go, I'm sorry, I had to plug my company. So in fact, you can go to our YouTube channel, O Plus by OGS, and catch up on all our videos. Like we really need support from the animation community because like who else will be watching all this? So right now we're working on our new series, which is about love that will be coming out next year. And I would say that apart from animated series at O+, we also do a lot of comics. We have this series called Sincerely Singles, and it's come quite a long way since we first started. It's about singlehood. So if you're ever feeling like very lonely, you need like some people to support you, like there's no love in your life or something like that, you can just read this comic. And this one is another comic series that our company has. So it's about data stories and it covers a variety of other topics. You can find all our comic content. It's on our IG account, which I will share later. So apart from work at O+, I do a lot of other collaborations with music artists like Mao Life, Jamie Wong, Vivian Yap. And I tend to have a lot of fun with this kind of projects because I guess working with other artists gives me a broader perspective of things. And sometimes I do VR illustrations as well. So this one was done for the Chamber Music of Art Singapore. And the other one is done for Singlit. So I'm not going to just like talk about work non-stop. So these are like some of my own personal illustrations. And if you would like, please follow O+ on our IG. And you can follow me if you're interested to see more of my stuff. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jolene, for sharing. Oh my gosh, your work is just like eye candy every frame. I just like want to saturate my brain with it. It's so beautiful.
You're so kind.
I mean, look at the chat. Everyone's like, "Wow, beautiful!" I mean, generally, it's just gorgeous, and I think it's amazing how, like, I mean, you say it's that your series, those series are chapelang, right? But to me, it actually felt very cohesive. because visually at least, you can really tell that like you're the visual direction behind it. Yeah, and I think that your personal style is just so strong, but yet so diverse. Very jealous. Really gorgeous. Yeah. Okay, I actually have a question about some of the things you shared. Right, one of them is that you shared that there's a saying that the animators who study animation don't end up in animation. So like this is a saying, right? Yeah. And actually, I was gonna say I have heard this as well. So I would be curious to know what did you think you did differently that kind of put you back on the path of animation?
I would say that for me, I think I was kind of lucky. So I would say that like because I was doing a lot of personal illustrations, so because like of that I kind of got to meet them, and because like maybe I did a collaboration with my friend, that's how I met my current boss Matt. So I think that it's really just passion projects that help you get noticed.
Right, I see. I actually, Jamie has a question in the Q&A. Just gonna one moment. Okay, so the question is, how important is it to find the time to do your own personal stuff, and how do you like fit it into your work projects? I think this is very close to what you shared earlier. Would like to enlighten us a little bit?
I see. Okay, so I guess that when I first graduated, I would say that I was a lot more hardworking. So like after work, I'll go back, enjoy some more. But I'll make sure that at least I'm enjoying something that I enjoy, so that like, it's not all torture. I guess during the weekends, like I would set out like maybe one day or so just to do my own work, and like just something like this. But I guess as time passes, as I work for a longer period of time, sometimes I only start on my own like illustrations maybe once a month or so. I guess it's also because like a lot of the time that I spend in my company is like kind of fun to me. So that's also why I can spend less time working on passion projects outside.
Right, because your company projects is also your passion project, right? They're both passion projects, right? I think that is such a privilege that you can do projects. You can pitch and drive creative projects of your own within your workspace. That is really like wonderful privilege. Yeah, I am curious as to what is your process in conceptualizing some of this content or brands. Like, so it could be videos or it could be your sincerely singles content.
Okay. So for the videos, right, I'm not the mastermind behind the concept and script behind it. It's the team at OGS. So at OGS, they kind of have script writers who are very good at what they do, and they would like write the script, story, the overall. They plan the teams. They go out to interview people, find people to who have this like issues like of topics to talk about, and we script them out, and all I handle from that point onwards is the storyboarding, the art direction, and the animation. Yeah.
Right, I see. Yeah, that's really really interesting to know the behind the scenes. I think unlike the rest of the panelists, you have a unique perspective of this because you're within a larger video publisher. So you're like part of the animation department of the larger publisher. Because I think where most of the other panelists we have today are more studio owners or working within smaller spaces. So I think it's also very interesting to hear that. I am curious also as to so you shared about the importance of passion projects earlier. What would you consider to be some of the like maybe best practices or takeaways that you think students should consider doing while they're still in school, aside from the doing passion projects?
So you mean like what else should they
think
note
like
of?
Yeah, or like kind of doing while they're still in school. Yeah.
I guess that for me, when I was still in school, I'm not sure if this will answer the question well enough, but I will try. So when I was still in school, I guess that my advice to myself is that try to like take things easier on yourself. Like you you still have a long way to go. Like you don't have to make it by a certain age. And I would say just do what you like. Take care of yourself, your mental health. And also, like, I guess my advice is that if you ever have like when you are taking on your first job or anything, I would say that just listen to your heart. I guess that sometimes, like, you know yourself best, you know what you want to do in the future, you know like what your career path, you know what you want to do in 10 years time basically. So just listen to that, and whatever you do, just make sure that it's towards that goal. That's all.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree with the importance of like considering like mental health in this process. Like a lot of times I see students, they do their FYP, their final film is really their final film. Like it's the last film they make, right? Because they finish the film and then they are so burnt out and they're like, I never want to make animation again.
Yeah.
See, many of you are smiling, so I know that you have considered or known people that have gone through this. Yeah, so I do think it's really a marathon in developing your own art and craft and film direction. So really kudos to you for persevering. It's just so disciplined in staying up or burning your weekends to do your own work and then doing more work at OGS. I think it's really remarkable in terms of your discipline as well. Yeah. So thank you very much, Jolene, for your time. Okay, right. So now the next panelist I want to introduce is Choon. So I think many of you are familiar with Choon's work. Choon is actually one of the two founders of the Woke Salaryman. It's a Singapore-based personal finance comic. And they are really, they're just super inspiring. I feel like when I read it, it's like I just feel so moved, and the work is just so relatable and accessible. They have a way of like taking personal finance and like making it so interesting and accessible, regardless of like whether you have like finance background. And I think it's just so amazing because Choon, he comes from an animation background, but then he has like put on so many different hats, and finally he's where he is right now. And I think it's just one step of a much longer journey. Choon, if you can take us through what you have prepared for us, and tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm very nervous because like, these people are so damn talented. I don't know what I can contribute also, but because my kind of, I think the work that I do is a lot of efficiency. Like a lot of times, like especially when I was studying in school, I always thought like quality was the factor to care about. Actually, quality is only one of the factors. And actually, I find more and more now, especially when you start doing business, right? Time is the factor. Like efficiency is one of the more important factors when it comes to doing client work. But not that client work is the be all and end all, but it really matters. So I might be a bit party pooperish, but let me share with you guys my journey. So this is just part of a presentation that I prepared a long time ago to talk to students about. So this is my journey. When I was 14 years old, I saw a film called Princess Momonoke, and it blew my mind. And I was like, this is what I'm meant to do for the rest of my life. So I dreamed about becoming an animator since then. Then I also later on, when I was a bit more adult, I watched a film called Athira, and that changed my mind that changed my life even more. I'm like, this is it. But when I was 18 years old, I was going to go poly, right? I had a talk with my uncle, who I respect tremendously, and he told me that don't go animation because you cannot earn money, one boy. Please. So I ended up doing what I thought was like a second best thing, which is I go mass communication. So I learned about things like marketing, radio, print journalism, print design, and things like that. It's quite satisfying, but still, I always never forgot my dream of wanting to be an animator. Actually, something very interesting happened when I was in year 2 of mass comm, doing mass comm, right? I have a friend, his name is Yihua. He's now one of the I don't know what his role is, one of the bosses at Finding Pictures. He's an incredible artist, just so talented. And I've been friends with him since secondary school. At that point of time, right, when I was doing mass comm, he was doing electrical and electronics engineering. And I saw that NYP had a very illustrious program, DMD, right, at Nanyang Poly. And I said, hey, why not we both try to go for direct admissions? I convinced him to go. He got in, I didn't get in. And I was but that dude he is unfairly talented. But he works very hard, so I also don't know. But I just had an interest in animation, but I don't think I draw as much as he did at that point of time. So he is just ridiculously talented. Always been trying to get better, become better than him, but still he's better than me when it comes to drawing. That dude is just too talented. So I was very depressed. I'm like, I think I'm just not meant to do this. So when I graduated mass comm, right, I was just still in a rut. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I just go and join a web design company, doing something that I think is kind of interesting, doing web design and stuff, but I'm also not very interested in it. And I still have this hankering to go and learn animation. So after a year of doing that web design job, I quit to go and study in NTU at this school called ADM, the School of Art, Design and Media, which actually I just taught there last sem. And the course I teach is about career pathways in animation. So I this is a topic that I really, really love to talk about, right? So when I graduated from bachelor's in NTU, I looked at the market in animation in Singapore and I was terrified because I was looking at the starting salaries, right? And I thought about the kind of lifestyle that I wanted to have, i.e. like, I'm not saying I want a Porsche or Lambo or anything like that, but I at least wanted to be able to have a HDB and stuff because I'm from Malaysia. So I have to rent. And then I also did not have anyone paying for my uni debt. And at the time, so my uni debt when I graduated was $25,000. So quite a hefty sum of money. So I felt like I really needed to go and tackle this sum of money. And I didn't want to join as a junior animator role because I felt like that would be really hard. It took a lot out of me to make that decision. But long story short, later on, what I did was, in fact, I go for the Masters in Animation that I took in NTU. And this was because there was a scholarship. But I really didn't have any thing in mind to actually want to do masters or go and do a postgraduate and then go and teach or anything like that. I don't want to do that kind of stuff. But it just, in my mind, it's like, okay, maybe I get to make a film and then they fund my lifestyle for 2 years. I was just deferring the idea of going out into the industry to go and brave having to think about salary and all these things and navigate. The difficult thing I've come to find about animation, and I'm willing to be wrong about this and would like to hear more from the other people in this panel because I have a lot of blind spots. I feel like animation in Singapore is really hard because Singapore is very expensive to live in. The cost of living in Singapore is extremely high. And yet we are in a region around the world, right, that where there are a lot of our regional neighbors are all way lower in terms of cost of living. So when it comes to animation production, right, animation is a labor intensive thing, right? Like 24 frames of work to make 1 second of animation. That is a lot of work. So when it comes to labor costs, it's just very difficult to do in Singapore because it is just so expensive to even live a very average life in Singapore. So when it comes to regional competition, and it's heating up because with COVID, and then we get remote working and stuff like that, right? The competition is nearer than ever before, and they are so good for a fraction of the price. So I felt it when I was just graduating, which is why I didn't go into animation. I always felt like I betrayed animation, actually. I still get it from time to time when I see a lot of my peers, for example, from Finding Pictures. I have a lot of friends there, and I get jealous of them because they are chasing their dreams. But I also understand, because I walked away from that, the cost that it takes to do that, the kind of long nights that they endure, the fact that they do something that they love, which is a blessing but also a curse, because the idea of failing at that is so tremendously difficult to bear. And I respect these people tremendously, people like Benjamin as well. Amazing, right? So what I did was I sold, let's not say sell out, right? I just joined mothership.sg, which is a local news media website. And I learned a lot about, I was supposed to go there as an illustrator, ended up doing a lot of social media stuff, ended up doing sponsored content for mothership.sg, learning a whole bunch of stuff about social media. Eventually, I got an offer from my friend who worked in a medtech firm. And this was a company that made devices to do two things: cure kidney stones and erectile dysfunction. So I happen to now, because of this job, know so much about kidney stones and erectile dysfunction. You can ask me if you need anything to know about these two things, right? And I felt like I was selling out because I actually quite loved my job at Mothership. I thought I was doing creative work when it comes to social media content, even though it was not animation per se, right? So the story was that, it's selling out because Mothership at the point of time was paying me around 4.5k a month. Not very little, but I was a manager at that point of time. This medtech company, they asked me to name a price. I said 6k, hoping that they will bring it down to 5.5. They said okay to 6. And I went, wow, I should ask for 7 like that. So I felt like I was selling out. The job wasn't very sexy. I mean, erectile dysfunction is kind of sexy, but like in the kind of like artistic way, I just did very saikang work. But they paid so well that I cleared my Renault loan, I cleared my uni loan as well. So when I was doing my regular job at all these places, I always had things going on that I would do when I get home from work, trying to start side hustles, trying to start my own comics and things like that. So the woke Salaryman was something that I actually started with my friend from Poly. He's a copywriter, so he would write these things and I'll draw the comic. So going back to the medtech job, right? Selling out and having cleared up all my debts and being able to save up a certain amount of money actually helped, because when we did the woke Salaryman after work, right, we would used to come back after our 9 to 5s and then we would eat dinner, watch Netflix with our partner. Then we work until 2 a.m. every night. It's very difficult also, right? But at least we had a full-time salary while we was doing that. So selling out and joining this medtech company eventually meant that when I had to take the risk of starting my own company and going full-time eventually, right, I could do that without a problem because I sold out for a while. And I think this is not said enough, because a lot of people say chase your dreams, which is something that I don't deny, but there has to be an asterisk beside it because there are things like living costs and stuff. And what I always tell my students nowadays is like, I know you don't like to talk about money, but you think about money now and you settle money now so you don't have to later on. Otherwise, it becomes like a thing, right, where it's constantly chasing you and you have this weight around your ankles and you can never truly fly, even when the opportunity comes to you. And that's the real tragedy. So I battled a lot with like mental depression and things like that because I thought I sold out my dreams. I sold out my passion of animation. If you were to map passion, right, in terms of like a heat map, I did this. So red means, oh, I'm very passionate about this thing. And green is like, eh. So if you map it out, right, like it's not red all the way. And I think it's actually might not be very realistic to expect red all the way. So if you're a fresh grad from animation and you expect red all the way, it's not probably going to be like that. I think only the top 10% or the top 1%, I might say, of every batch of animators will get to do what they want the moment they come out. And the industry is not very kind, I feel, to people who are average compared to some other roles. It's a tough thing to say. I'm willing to be wrong about it, but I found that to be the case. I have a lot of friends, a lot of peers in animation who've dropped out, who are way more talented than I am because of various other reasons, right? So my journey is very messy. This is what I thought it would be like when I was 14 years old. That I would have okay, I'm going to go for this Mount Olympus of animation. You know, my gods of Katsuhiro Otomo, Hayao Miyazaki, Walt Disney, all that. I'll just walk straight to it, and that's the. But like they say, you don't one does not simply walk to Gondor. It doesn't happen like that. This is actually what it was like. I'm just walking all around, doing all different things, trying to pay off bills, but also trying to chase passion in the meantime. So it's a very convoluted process, and it's not a straight line. And okay, this one is other stuff. I think not very relevant. But what I think I took away the most is that it's okay to not do animation for a while. Animation, I think, happens to be one of these things that is very siloed. Like, it feels like when you get into it, you can get very deep into it. But actually, right, when it comes to transiting to other roles, at least for the meantime, to take a break from it, to earn some money first, right, there are a lot of things that we can do, technically speaking, right, that is in demand in other sectors and other industries. For example, if you're an animator, you can draw. Right? You can do sound design. Some people can do sound design. You can edit because you have to cut your clips together. Well, granted, I think animators are not very, very savvy in editing, but at least we know the software. We are not savvy in editing because every frame is so difficult to make. So when it comes down to it, typically we don't like to cut. We will do things like we loop and stuff like that, reuse things like that. But we have that. We can do visual effects. And also if you get down to content publishing level, there's a lot of things that you can learn very quickly. So I think if you couple that, right, and you learn some soft skills, right, there are actually a lot of things that you can do outside of animation if you can't find something in animation first. And I think it's okay to take a break from animation, but also animation is one of these things that has a very high technical ceiling. So I always feel like what is still important if you transit out of animation for a while is that you always do animated related arty things in the background. But I think most of us will do that anyway. Being a creative, especially when it comes to like animation, that level of deep creativity, right, and commitment, right, I think it is a curse. We will be miserable if we don't do it. So even if you sold out for a while and you went to do other things, chances are you will itch, right? So manage your time and find time to scratch that itch once in a while. And I think you won't go rusty. I think that's a very important thing. So that's kind of been my journey so far. Yeah. I think I don't say too much also, otherwise it would be like 2 hours plus. I'm an old man, Yeah.
Oh, Vishu, your story is so personal. Oh my gosh, amazing.
Is it
I
too
feel like
personal? I'm sorry.
no, it's fantastic. I meant it as a compliment. It's just that I just found myself nodding my head, at every point of what you're saying. Like, your this drawing that you did, right, of just like your route, right. I really feel this is what career looks like. It's like kind of sometimes going in a squiggly and circle lines, like totally like not linear. And also on a more personal level for me, I do also think that I have a similar problem or similar concern. Like I feel I'm a generalist. I started out in design, then I do illustration, then I do animation. So I go the opposite direction from you because I go into animation only towards the end, right? Yeah, and I feel like specialists are overrated lah. Yeah, I'm proud to be a generalist and do multiple random things lah. Can edit, can do sound, can do this and that. Yeah, I think we should celebrate generalists more. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah. Right. I want to kind of dig a little bit deeper with you in terms of like your collaboration with your co-founder, Ruiming. Yeah, because I think you mentioned Yihua as like one of the people that you collaborated with, and then after that, Ruiming, and then these are all people that were from your secondary school and your poly days. Yeah. Could you share with us like what's your process to like finding or searching for collaborators, and maybe even any advice for students in terms of this?
Well, it's a tough one because I also make friends in a very strange way. Like, I don't have many friends, but the friends that I have, I feel like the people I keep around me are people that I get really, really close to. So with Ruiming, my co-founder, right, I remember, okay, how we split the company, I'll just be very open. It's 51-49. I'm the 49, he's the 51, but it's basically 50-50. Like, we just need to be 51 for somebody to hold majority stake. So he's like officially the director or whatever. I don't know what it's called.
Right? Yeah, correct.
It's very hard to trust people, and my father-in-law keeps telling me that, wow, just careful, don't let him cheat you or whatever. Then he do this, do that, all that. So that risk is still there. I mean, Ruiming, if you're watching this, if you cheat me, I'll try to find you and I'll do something bad to you. But I really don't think he'll do that. Because you know why? Because I have leverage over him. Because he has some level of B2C-ness. He can't hide away, I can expose him. So social media very powerful also. I can leverage over him. But also I find that having that trust, right, to just think that he will do right by me, allows us to move very, very quickly as well, and to do some things without having to sign contract first and things like that. And I can't tell anyone how to do that, or when is that point to trust, because I don't want to say, I can trust already, then you go and sign the thing, then the person actually cheat your money and all that. But, with Ruiming, with Yihua, who is now at Finding Pictures, I never actually officially collaborated with him on any businessy things. It's a big misfortune. It's never like we tried and failed or anything. Actually, one of the things we collaborated together was when we just graduated poly, right? We actually wrote to our primary schools because we wanted to draw murals. At that point in time, we want to start a business drawing murals and stuff. So we actually drew about, I think, two murals for Marsiling Primary School, like for free that I just did with him. Yeah, it's really fun, and we just hang there, and then they don't disturb us and stuff like that. But I always wanted to collaborate with him, but it's just the planets didn't align I have no idea how to advise people to find co-founders. It's a very difficult process. But I have friends in the business kind of field who actually found co-founders, right, in a very systematic process that they look at, for example, your skill sets. You want to find somebody who's not exactly the same person as you. So maybe, okay, let me break it down to some advice that you can see. So technically, you want to check these boxes first. This person has to be somebody on the same frequency as you. You want to be able to at least get excited about the same things, right? So that's number one, same sensibility. Number two is that you want to find somebody with a different skill set from yours. But I also think it's good to have some overlap. Like with me and Ruiming, we are content experts as well. So we overlap there, but he's a writer and I'm a picturer or drawer or illustrator. That's the more cheap term, but I like drawer, right? I just draw things, right? Okay. So there's some overlap, but also we can attack two things and check out our blind spots. And I think that the last one would be somebody who you can trust. And that's a very hard thing to do. But trust can be manufactured. Trust can be contractually manufactured. It's tricky to think about it. It's like it's almost like talk about prenuptial agreement. The thing you sign before you get married. It's a very touchy thing to think about. And it's like, oh, what you want me to sign contract? You don't trust me. No, if I sign contract, then I can trust you. you can work like that also lah. You know, so it also depends on how you navigate these things socially. But with Rui Ming, I've been with that dude. I know a lot of deep dark secrets of his, and he knows a lot of deep dark secrets of ours. So our leverage that we have on each other is social. But if you can't establish social leverage, then you establish contractual leverage lor. I think these three things lah.
Yeah,
Right.
I think something that also I observed that you just shared is that you've come a long way in terms of like even just running a business, right? Like starting from like doing murals for free to now like thinking through contracts, working with others, and I think that's like would you say that's like kind of on the job training?
Which part is on the job training? Sorry.
Our business pick up the business acumen.
Well, I'm a terrible boss. I just last week I felt like crap because we had an intern that wanted to do stuff for us, and I didn't brief him properly. I didn't brief the expectations properly. So we're trying to start TikTok, and it's failing lah. I just don't get TikTok, but I feel like we should plant a flag there. So I just asked this very young, very passionate, and very enthusiastic young man to help me do some stuff, and we'll pay him a token, something like that. And he's spending so much effort doing such a great job, but nobody watches it because our TikTok strategy never do properly or whatever. And he's just feeling very discouraged. And it's like, oh, I should have told you that actually my expectations for TikTok is like that. So because he told me, oh, I'm very sian, I do like 6 hours of work and then like 100 people see it. But if I had briefed him earlier, so it absolutely is on the job training, and I'm so bad at it. Like, you know, like when you work for bosses and companies, you always, if you go deep enough, you stay long enough, you'll discover that the company very messy. I tell you, every company is messy. That is the constant state of being an entrepreneur, that you're solving problems constantly. If you expect anything else, you will be so stressed. Not that I'm not stressed anyway, but the realistic expectation is that problems are like that one. But I think as an employee or as just starting out, right, I feel like I was actually a very bad intern once. I did my job extremely well, extremely fast. I was animating. I won't say specifics. I don't want to get cancelled. But I was very entitled about my work, and I was very upset at the boss because he kept asking us to do fast work, and I wanted to do good work. But then me not understanding the macro situation of basically this person has to pay bills, he has deliverables that he need to deliver, and he can't just deliver and try to hold up the bastion of what I thought animation is supposed to be. He has to meet his deadlines, he has to pay the bills. Not to say you must cave in like that, but to understand that perspective as somebody starting out helps you so much, because that actually helps you to step up to a managerial role. And doing managerial role sometimes is it feels like you are not going to do as much animation, as much work that you love. But another way to look at it also is that if you are stepping out to a managerial or leadership role, it means that you can scale your expertise and your ability and teach other people to be as good as you are, so there can be 5 of you or 10 of you. And that's very, very valuable. So sometimes just as a young person starting out, it's also good to watch and try to be as macro-minded as possible. And that will help if you eventually one day become an entrepreneur. You ease into it a lot faster. Yeah, on the job. Yeah.
That's a very sound advice. I think the pursuit of efficiency versus perfectionism is something that like I think a lot of creative people struggle with. Yeah, and then also at the end of the day, because you're doing it with a timeline in mind. Like, I mean, one of the joke that I always have is that like the film is like never really completed, right? It's just abandoned. So it's just the deadline is there. Yeah. That's the film. That's the final film you submit. This is the film that you managed to make by the deadline. Yeah.
Yeah, there's artist and there's designer, right? Like we think about, I mean, Yuri Noshtin is loved, but he's still working on his final film. Is that good? I think in a craftsman kind of way, there is so much respect and kudos for Yuri Noshtin to be able to do that. Yeah. And he's old, I let him do his thing, right? But also you can think about accessibility. Part of my responsibility as an artist, even as an artist right now, I feel, is to get my work in front of the people who want to see it and who would be helped by seeing it. So me being efficient would help that process as well. And does it really need to be that good? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Yeah.
Yeah, especially with like Salaryman, right? You have to push out content like regularly.
Oh, the drawings are so bad. I tell you, I always look back and like, what is this stuff that I'm drawing? But my co-founder nagging me, then so I just push it out. So sometimes it's good to have somebody else, because I tell you, if I was doing it alone, so little stuff will get done because I'm just polishing everything. Yeah.
They're extremely well drawn, like very, very like anatomically accurate, right? But maybe only like one comic every month.
Exactly.
Yeah, very, very understandable. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks so much for sharing, Choon. Yeah. Athira, would you like to introduce our next panelist?
Yes, I would. Thanks so much, Jia and Choon. Now, last but not least, we have Sarah Cheok. She is a LaSalle graduate and also my cohort mate, who is now an art director at Finding Pictures. So if you tuned into yesterday's showcase, you would have seen the last film, The Growth, which was showcased locally at Cartoons Underground last year and at DigiCon 6, winning Best Singapore Student Animation and the Next Generation Award, respectively. The Growth has also been screened at various international films. So Sarah, can we have you on to share a little bit more about yourself and your works?
Hi, I'm a bit nervous now after. Hi, I'm a bit nervous now after Wei Choon
No worries, no worries.
share
Just go ahead.
so many hard facts and truthful, relatable facts about the industry. Yeah, so I think I'm not as experienced as everyone else, I think. So I will try my best. Please forgive me if you don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Yeah, okay. So hi everyone, I'm an art director from Finding Pictures. So I actually catered my presentation more for students who are graduating or are about to graduate from art school. So I hope if you are thinking of joining the industry or you're already working in the industry, I hope you get something out of this presentation also. Yeah. So I'll talk about my journey starting from my final year of graduation. Yeah. Okay, so my final year of graduation was mainly about my final year project, which is, as Athira mentioned, is The Growth. So it's just a short film that we made. Like we had no idea what we were doing, but we just submitted something anyway. So I think I'll just share some advice that I learned from throughout this whole process. Hopefully it's helpful. Yeah. So I think for final year project, I think it's important to just make something that is unique to you. Yeah. So I feel like it's important to not think of it as submitting your work as a school project. Think of it more like getting your work and your name out there, because all of these things will help create opportunities, possibly like creative opportunities for your career in the future. And I went about this by sending out to various festivals, and I also learned a lot about working as a team. Like this was my first big project with a team with me and 2 other people. Yeah. So I think try to enjoy your process, and even though it might be very traumatic and very painful, I think it'll be worth it. Yeah. Yeah. So my second piece of advice is post your work online. I think as Rachel mentioned, it's very important to get your name and your work out there. So because you don't know who is watching when people contact you. Sometimes it's not so straightforward, like you applying for a job and getting an interview to get a job in animation. Yeah. So I think after my final year project, I was really, I think this was before graduation. I was quite shy, posting my work. I mean, I think that's quite relatable, I think, hopefully. Because I keep thinking this is not good, I can do so much better. But eventually, after my friends encouraged me to post my work online, I eventually started freelancing for Finding Pictures during my graduating year. So I think that was mid 2019. Yeah. So post your work online to get job. Yeah. So after that, I got a job at Finding Pictures, and starting out Finding Pictures at that point in time was very, very, very small. So I think that is okay. I saw my friends starting to apply for their jobs during their grad year. They applied to bigger companies like Lucasfilm and bigger local companies lah. But I think I'm thankful that I started out quite small. I started out working on like project pitches for like potential projects rather than being thrown like straight into a big production. Yeah, so I actually experienced like a wider scope of things rather than specializing immediately on the thing that I wanted. Yeah, which I thought is really good lah. Then if I would join a bigger company, then I think my job would be more specialized. Yeah. So I joined Finding Pictures full time in August in the year after. So I feel like working as a team is important, and I I think it's the same as what I experienced in my final year project for my grad film, but it's just in a bigger scale. So I started working on like bigger projects, mostly in short films and commercial projects lah. But I think the people at Finding Pictures really like pushed me to eventually start like leading people as well. So I think my point is that we all learn skills along the way, and not just technical skills like how well you draw or like how well you animate. I think more importantly, you also learn like soft skills from observing how people work, like other people's like work processes. And it really taught me like how different people learn how to solve different creative problems. So, and I realized like there's so many different solutions to a same problem. Yeah, just by working with others. And sometimes we have to make creative compromises. And just learning that is part of the art process. Yeah. So sometimes, most times, feedback is not negative criticism, but it's part of getting there to the solution. Yeah. So I realized like in school, learning is a journey to know what you're good at. So even now, I think I'm still discovering what I'm good at. So since Finding Pictures started out quite small, I got to try out different hats. So similar to school, like we start out generalizing and doing everything first before we specialize, and we choose what we want to study more about. Yeah. Yeah, so these are my earlier works with Finding Pictures. So I started doing a lot of like storyboarding, like animation, character design. I even tried post-production and some visual development as well before I got to settle doing art direction. Yeah. So from there, I started doing a lot more visual development, like pre-production and character designs rather than animation. So some of you might be worried like, oh, I can't draw as well as my peers. And I think that is okay, because you will take time to figure out what you're good at. Like I have learned this from seeing my classmate grow from being a specialized in backgrounds to becoming a producer, an animation producer, and eventually a director. So I just want to say that there are different paths that you can take, because I want to remind everyone that the animation pipeline is very big. So not necessarily everyone who study animation will become an animator and animate every day. I think we should find people that you vibe with and there will be many more opportunities like this to like learn and grow. Also, I'm working on my short film on the side, like She and Her Good Vibrations. It's a collab between me and Olivia, who is a talented writer. So the film is on Kickstarter right now. I think that's it.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I wanted to ask you, because you were talking about, people who rose up to producer and director role. You yourself, you rose to a role of an art director within a brief 2 years. Do you have any tips for young graduates on what it takes to be successful in an animation studio setting?
Oh wow. Oh my goodness. Okay, I have no idea, but I guess you just have to keep trying and sometimes and take other people's feedback. Yeah, that's how that's like I think one of the fastest way to grow and um to hone your craft. Yeah.
What was
think
the general process like when you started out to what you do now? How has your pipeline changed, like your day to day?
day to day. Um actually at first I was actually quite I think at first everything was quite messy. I was jumping from, as I mentioned last, I was jumping from a lot of pre-production work, and then sometimes we had other projects going on at the same time that were needed to the deadline was coming lah basically, then and we had to finish it. So I was jumping around doing a lot of things, and yeah, I think I started out doing a lot more animation and storyboarding, but I think eventually now I kind of settled on doing more visual development and concept art and uh, character design. Yeah.
Yeah, so the work in terms of pipeline, would you say is very similar to what we did back in LaSalle? Because I think in terms of schooling, we had a fairly similar path. You were also from SOTA and we also went to
Yeah.
LaSalle. Yeah. So would you say what were the biggest changes from school schedule to work schedule, or like just how the day-to-day looks like?
Oh, I think it's quite. I feel like it's quite. There are quite a lot of similarities between school and work, but I think the major difference is, I get to collaborate with like a lot more people and people who actually know what they are doing. I think, yeah, it basically more experienced people that I can really learn from, like by observation or like just by collaborating with them, just helping them out. Yeah, I think that's where, uh, yeah, a lot of my experience like comes from. It's from learning from other people. Yeah.
So you would say work has been a bit easier than school, right?
Uh, what is kind of less chill than school?
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. You feel like you would have done anything differently while you were still back in LaSalle, that would have been helpful for your current role in finding pictures?
Oh, I would have watched a lot more short films, I think. Yeah, I didn't realize how like looking at what other people have put out there, like influences like your work like much more than you trying to hone your craft without any outside influence. Yeah.
Then what do you feel is your biggest takeaway from school? Like anything, any course or any module or any lesson that you picked up in school that has helped you a lot in what you do now?
Um, would that be in terms of anything?
Anything. It could even be an advice you got from someone or some person you've worked with or a project you worked on.
Wow. I think it would be just be open to everything. Yeah. I think that really helped me with figuring out what I want to do, because sometimes you don't know what you want to be in the future and what you want to do eventually. So I think I'm just doing whatever is fun to me right now, and I'll just like see how.
Yeah, and it's working clearly. You're putting out some really good works. Do you want to tell everyone about your latest project, like a little bit more, She and Her Vibrations, what it's about and where people can find it?
Yeah, sure. So it's about a woman who has a middle-aged woman who is addicted to her vibrator. Yeah, so the story was originally written by Olivia, and we met at the story lab development workshop last year. So from then on, we've been working for like the past year to put out the film lah. Yeah, so right now it's in production, but we're trying to get more funding to create the film lah. So it's on Kickstarter right now. Like maybe I can put the link there later on in the chat. Yeah.
Yep. Send the link. You guys should go check it out. It's really funny and very, very cute illustrations. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Jia, shall we bring our last speaker?
Yes, thanks so much, Sarah. So our last speaker is Lingual. Lingual is actually the SCAPE, senior manager at SCAPE, who programs media and entertainment. So I think we're really looking forward to Lingual sharing a bit more about what SCAPE offers youths today. So Lingual actually has experience from like artist management, film producing, post-production. So today she's really trying her best to make an impact in the youth community and fulfill their passions and aspirations. Yeah. So Lingual, over to you for your sharing.
Thank
and
you.
Introduction.
Yeah, so I think we've got a very wonderful panel of speakers today, and I think everyone's been very candid, very insightful as well. So I believe this live stream will be shared later, so I think we can still continue to pick out certain tips. So I think today we're talking a lot about what kind of pathways or alternatives after you graduate, right? So at SCAPE, it's always been about championing youth aspirations, about your creative aspirations. So what we do here is we are like an enabler. We're an enabler. We support your dreams, and which in this case, our tagline is "Dream it, live it," right? So because the thing is, we believe that dreams are possible, and what we want to do is to try to make it sustainable, right? To make your pathway sustainable, which is why at SCAPE we organize a range of programs from talent development to networking to showcasing of youth and youth talents. In fact, I've prepared a video here which pretty much encapsulates the work that we do here. So let me just very quickly share that video with everyone here. All right, so that pretty much is all what SCAPE does. I think in answering the question like after you graduate, then what do you do, right? And what are some of the opportunities that would be available. I think Wei Chun has shared pretty well as well. You know, a lot of times it's not like a direct pathway, and in the middle, you know, you try to find different things to do as well. So, and that's exactly what I would encourage all of you to do, you know, to stay open and to stay hungry, right? So I think if you weren't able to find full-time employment yet, you know, as a former career consultant myself, I would say stay plugged in. You know, if you do not find your dream job, right? What you could do is meanwhile, you know, take up courses, attend workshops and network, you know, stay within that zone and clock your 10,000 hours, like what they have shared earlier, you know, which is to pursue your passion project. Because I think what employers are also looking for are people who are really serious about their craft, right? So one point would be like internships, freelance work, take up courses, create new story ideas, you know, work on a passion project, find a buddy to collaborate with, submit your film to festivals and competitions, go for festivals, watch more animation, stay curious and read up, right? And I think that pretty much in a nutshell is what I want to share about. You know, like, don't be so fixated about particular pathway to success. In fact, you will hear from a lot of our panelists share that, oh, like for example with Sarah, she met Olivia at the story development lab last year, but that was because Sarah took that opportunity to go participate in that story lab, which was how she found her collaborator. Similarly for Olivia, she took part in a lot of our talent development programs at SCAPE, and I think that's how she came to find out about the story lab. And she, having no background in animation, found Sarah, her co-producer, and of course Gerald, who's the mentor, who is also producing her film with her right now. You know, and we hear of so many success stories like these. I mean, yeah, stories of how people find a like-minded collaborator. And even at SCAPE, we've got mentorship programs as well, you know, where we pair you on a one-on-one basis with a mentor. I believe Ching Sheng is here in the audience as well today. Yeah, so he took part in that mentorship program, and he got to work with a Hollywood animation director for Happy Feet, who mentored him personally. And with that seed funding provided by SCAPE, you know, he made an animation film. So I really would like to encourage all of you to just stay hungry, you know, stay open, because I believe it's the hungry ones that get fed. So I'm just gonna post on the chat here a link to our Telegram chat, so that you can you know, subscribe to the Telegram and get updated on some of the programs that we have here. And of course, to all the animators that are in the panel, please submit your film, your short film, to the National Youth Film Awards when we launch sometime early next year. So please take part in the NIFAR as well. Yes. Yeah,
Thanks
that's
so
all
much
for my
for
sharing.
sharing, Lingual. Yeah, I was going to say that those who are hungry get fed. It's very accurate. The go-getter spirit is like something that's in common amongst like all the panelists today. I actually have a question about because I know that there's a lot of like mentorship programs for youths. So could you share a bit more about like what sort of support does SCAPE have for maybe the older youths, like maybe like those who are like the young
30 and
studio
above.
owners? Yes, the 30 plus, but still under 35, so still
Actually, we
youthful.
don't differentiate between like a young youth or an old youth. You know, there's
Right.
basically it's just 15 to 35 are all considered youths. And the main reason is because we are funded by the government. So therefore, in this case, that our KPI is for the youth. So if you are a youth here, you have to take part in it, because you have to know that the funding is specific to you. So you might as well leverage here, and then still continue to leverage on other forms of support, like through IMDA or SGIFF, etc. But know that the funding here is specific to youth. So it just means that you have one advantage. You have the edge over like an industry professional who is above 35, right? So if you're asking me about very specific programs, I think one of it would be the Cartoons Underground Story Development Lab, which is actually happening now already. So I think if you want to take part, you might have to wait for next year's
Right?
installment.
Yeah.
And the other one would be the Film Facilitation Program, which in my own opinion, is one of the best support and grant that we offer, because we provide about $10,000 to the filmmaker as a seed funding. And you will get paired with an international mentor to work on a one-on-one basis in six genres. So it's either a documentary, comedy, animation, horror, or action. So I understand that animation is not a genre per se, but I think we've created that intentionally so that animation filmmakers get an added chance lah,
Yes.
to try for this. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I believe the first year it was Ching Sheng. This year, I believe, was it Colleen Ko that got
Yes,
selected?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and in this case, to qualify or rather to be eligible for the film facilitation fund, you will have to be a nominee of the National Youth Film Awards. So therefore, I would say take part in the National Youth Film Awards, and even so, even when you do take part, I think what SCAPE also help to do is apart from all the support and in talent development, right, we also help market and promote youth talents. So what do I mean? We try to get you interviews or media coverage or provide a platform where you get to showcase your talents. We actually do interviews and share editorials with our youth with the youth as well, and we work with the youth to create content. I think we are starting to come out with a podcast. You will get to hear it very soon. So we have a group of podcasters that we invite, and we decided to say, hey, you know what, we want to do up a channel, so we're gonna pay you, just create that content, for the podcast. So that's another opportunity out there. What was it I wanted to mention about so about the marketing of the talent. So what we do is we actually proactively reach out to organizations. I think like SCAPE is like in a very vantage position where we identify a mass, all these group of very outstanding youth talents, right? And on the other side, we work a lot with industry partners. So what we do is we try to bridge that gap to ensure that the youth talents here get matched to the industries, and the industries who are looking for youth talents come to us and they get hold of these talents. So we're starting this network called the Creatives Network, where talents are invited on board, and we try to match them to relevant industry or companies.
When you say talents, you mean like just generally anyone in the creative industry?
In this case, I would say that it would be preferred if they came through a SCAPE program. So like say for example, or if you're affiliated with SCAPE, like say for example, like for example Gerald, right? He was a NIFA nominee or winner, or even somebody, like as long as you take part in a SCAPE program essentially, and if we identify you to be of a strong enough caliber that we believe, we're confident to push out to the industry. So we kind of act like a talent manager, like an agent, so to speak, except that we do it for free lah. Yeah,
Right.
we provide that
So if
service.
I'm a student in animation, my first step is I need to first submit my film to NIFA, and then that kind of gets me access to further opportunities through like the creative network, maybe the film facilitation program, and furthermore.
Yes,
Yeah.
and take
Yeah.
part in any of SCAPE's program or leverage on the resources that we offer.
Fantastic. Yeah, I was gonna share that I'm actually helping Kayleen produce her film, like her FFP film. Yeah. So it's and I think she's really like someone that has really benefited from SCAPE's programs. She submitted her film, her final year film, To Kill the Birds and Bees, and it just like swept the awards, right, at the NIFA, and then she got picked up again to this opportunity. So I do think SCAPE has really done some fantastic work in accelerating and highlighting youths. Yeah. So if you're in the audience here, submit your films to NIFA. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Seems like there's a lot of workshops and programs that the youth can look forward to. Is there a timeline or something that's coming up next that young graduates can kind of look forward to?
I think the next big one would be mainly more on the National Youth Film Awards. We're actually putting up something in the pipeline, which is something of for writers, but no details are firmed up as of now. So I would say that maybe you can just follow us on our socials so that you can keep a lookout, because what we usually do is we post a lot of our programs on our socials. But as a non-profit organization, we don't have a lot of marketing dollars. So if you haven't heard about it, it's just because we don't have that big an advertising budget to do mass. So we probably haven't been able to reach as large a group of people as we can. So that's why I always try to encourage people to follow us on our socials. And if you do happen to know about a very good program that you feel like a friend would benefit from, then do spread the word. Because I think and with all these programs that we offer, in fact, they all come with complimentary. They're either free or at a very, very low cost. So I would say it's intended to help students. It's intended to help the youth accelerate their progress.
Thanks so much for sharing all these opportunities. Yeah, I really agree that SCAPE has really done so much in supporting the youth. Yeah, and I feel like I've also benefited from SCAPE support. Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think the next part I would like to do is we want to do this session called Straight Talk. So what it is actually I have prepared a list of questions that I want to ask the panelists. That really just to dig a bit deeper into their experience of the industry. And I really welcome everyone. Please share your questions in the Q&A, and then we will answer them live. So please go ahead, and I think what we'll do is we can start with the questions we have for Straight Talk, and then if I see any questions come in, I will then answer. We'll bring them up to be answered live. Yeah. Right. Okay. So this question goes out to all the panelists. Okay. Any of you can share, and I think it was raised a little bit earlier, but I think I want to explore it further, which is how exactly do you network or build your network, especially if you're shy or you're introverted. Yeah. And I think some of you belong the category of being introverted. So very curious, how does one network or build your network?
Or we just say, right, no need to raise hand.
Yeah, no need to raise hand. No need to raise hand.
Okay, from my experience, right, I actually think if you find it very hard to, a lot of people think it's like, oh, you play politics, whatever, but if you don't play, other people will play. And this is not really playing politics, because if you don't make yourself known to people, you are also letting go of the chance that this person or this company might need your help, and that you actually are looking and would benefit from being part of this project or this company or whatever. So you are just trying to maximize these mutually beneficial things from happening. If you feel like it's politics, like I did at one point, you think it's vying or that, maybe think about it from that perspective. And also as somebody who's been in, okay, not the animation industry, but in the content industry for a while, I feel like just being openly honest, right, the idea of having a young fresh grad ask me a question, right, I really like, because it makes me feel like I'm some kind of mentor or some kind of expert lah. So you can play to that a little bit. You don't just have to go, hey, pokes, hello, what's up, I like your stuff. You don't have to do that. You can be very specific and nerdy, and I think there's a lot of charm in that. Don't be too weirdly, oh god, I love your thing so much, to the point where it's weird. But you can just go, actually I noticed that, in your film, the second scene or this sequence, how did you do those textures? I love your stuff so much. Thank you very much for answering. Something very nerdy, and I love answering that kind of stuff, because it also shows appreciation for the behind the scenes of actually executing something. And I'll be keen to hire people like that. Another thing that I appreciate a lot, and I don't know how much other people answer these kind of things, but I appreciate a lot when somebody comes to me and is very specifically vulnerable or asking for very general advice about stuff in a way that is vulnerable, where I feel like it's genuine, like people sharing with me their insecurities about having to earn money, having to pay for their parents also, or something like that. Like that kind of stuff I'm more inclined to answer. If you are uncomfortable with just saying hi, because when you're just saying hi, it's very weird. I can't do that also. But maybe you think about it, what would be a deep question that you ask somebody like that? Maybe that will help some of us out. Yeah.
Wow, that's actually very, very specific and usable, executable advice, right? Pick something specific you admire about someone's work, and then ask them a meaningful question or thoughtful question about it. And then that very, very cool. Yeah, I'm curious as to whether you have actually hired someone or connected with someone in that way and then that
Yes.
person maybe came and joined your team? Does that
Have
happen?
so we have two interns that we took on, and I don't know whether they'll work out or not. So this might be bad advice because I'm a very new boss. Like, Salaryman was started in April 2019, and I only started doing full time April 2020. So we are very new. All this might be bad advice. So just take that in mind, keep that in mind first. But I'm a big Kurt Day fan. I know if people know Kurt Day here, but I'm a big Kurt Day fan. And there's somebody within the Kurt Day community that actually spoke to me about Kurt Day first, and then later on asked if he could do an internship. But from the conversation that he had, I sensed that he was somebody who, although very young, had a very broad perspective on world issues, economics, and things like that. So it impressed me enough through this other conversation that then, I felt like, give him a chance. And now he's interning for us. Something like that. Yeah, if you are real first, you have a good shot one. But it might not work for everybody. I mean, you go and do that with Bill Gates, he's not going to answer. Very busy, right? But with the right scale, even if you can't get to a company head, maybe a manager or even a hiring manager, if you're interested in the job, you can say, actually, what are the qualities that you guys are looking for when you post this job ad? Like, what will increase my chances and what can I put to help? Like, what kind of problems do you guys have at the organization? These kind of things are things that bosses and managers love to hear and answer. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah, I definitely would appreciate if someone asked me that question. I agree. Yeah, I'm curious as to for Sarah and Jolene, like if you guys like have any tips on this, like networking or building your network. Like how have you built your own networks?
I would. Okay, maybe Sarah, you go first.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I guess for me, like I don't have such a good strategy like Choon. I'm more of somebody who sticks with like my friends, then they go around, chat with other people, and then I go there, talk to them to get to know. And basically, like one of my professor also say, don't offend anyone in the industry. Industry is already so small. So I would say just make friends with people, try to make a good impression. And cause like I'm quite a shy and introverted person, so I tend to go with a group of friends just to make myself feel a bit more comfortable. So that's all from me.
Yeah, I think I'm also quite similar. Yeah, like I'm also quite introverted, like as most artists are. Yeah, and I think for me, I would just try to be genuine and try to chase what you're interested in, like go to events or places to meet people and to find people that have the same vision as you. Yeah, I would say be genuine is important.
I think the fact that you guys know that you're introverts or say you're introverts and then have the courage to come today and share is like actually really showing that you're putting yourself out there. So kudos to you guys. Yeah. I would like to bring up a question from the Q&A list. Just press answer live. So this question is, how do we become not jaded in the animation industry? Anyone can answer this? Yeah, maybe Benjamin, since you've been in the animation industry for the longest.
Yeah, so thanks for raising on the question. I think I gotta be honest with you, right? Like, and I think Jolene also kind of knows it. It's like when she joined, we were kind of like 3 years in. That I wasn't actually doing a lot of animation at that point as well. Like it came to a point where, when you're running a business and you realize that you wouldn't be doing the thing that you set out initially to do. And that's something that when I was kind of consulting and when Chris Do at that time, back then when I asked him for business advice, he'll tell me that things will change. You won't be doing animation when you move forward. And I was like, no, I cannot be you don't stop joking around. And 2 years in, I was like, oh, he was right. Then I told him, and then he was like kind of laughing at me. But yeah, I think it isn't fair for me to sort of give full advice in terms of jadedness in the animation industry, because the 6 years, 7 years that we've been doing, I've only been doing animation on the ground for maybe about like 1-2 years, and then sort of transition from there to other things like strategy, more of like relationships, partnerships, and different things like that, which is only natural. But to answer your question, to not being jaded, from what I've been seeing from my colleagues in Genesis, is that we try to, well, doing like different. One thing is that, you know, being able to do a lot of different kinds of work, I would say it definitely helps. If you're in a project that's like for the long run, that's talking about the same things, doing the same things, the same style, the same animation, language, and everything like that, you tend to get jaded a lot more quickly, as you feel like you're just stuck in a time capsule of everything, right? Whereas for like a studio like us, we jump on projects every other month. It's something different. So you're always like learning about something. You're always learning about different things lah. So like, for example, when COVID came out, we had opportunity to work and do some documentaries on it. And we had to do, we managed to go and film and speak to different people and experts and doctors, and go to different places that not everyone can go. So we're pretty, that's where we sort of like, you know, oh, that's pretty interesting. Or that's, you know, whatever we're doing has like a different like purpose and a meaning. And that's something that I always tell people, that's something that's, even though it's not really like flashy and spectacular, but it's something that, yay, it's a really interesting point. So kind of like jumping around different things, learning about things from, I don't know, from like car brands and like, I don't know, all different points, right? It just gives us a new perspective on that lah. And that's one thing, but also constantly being able to do like pushing yourself and sort of learning something different, I would say, not just like pertaining to animation. That's really for like mental health and wellness, right? Where you have to sort of just, you know, put yourself into exploring to different things as well, like, you know, taking your mind off, doing baking or something else like that. That's something that we encourage you guys to sort of like expand your boundaries and just picking up a new skill. And that's something that's how we sort of stay afloat and stay, and not just afloat, right? But like sort of like, that's how we regain our energy to continue the charge again in the next day.
Right. Yeah. I think that's good advice. Like I would imagine that being the feeling of like jadedness and is really a problem in any industry. Probably not just animation industry, but with every job is always about continuing to extend variety of like projects while also learning new skills lah. Yeah, so you don't remain stagnant. Yeah, but I would say the animation industry is also like, although it's in Singapore, it's small, it's really quite varied, you know. So if like if a small studio doesn't work out, can always visit a new studio, can always be a freelancer or explore other aspects like what Sarah shared earlier, where she tried really a variety of different things. And I would even say she settled on art direction, right? Actually, Sarah, maybe you might do other things, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so like I agree with you, like the change environment would also definitely help. Like that's just natural, and that's just like, you know, everybody do need a change of environment, you know, and to kind of just you know, work, whether you're working in a company, jumping to another place and just kind of get refreshed on like what Choon was mentioning. Every company has its own flaws and every company has its own things, and every entrepreneur or boss in that sense is always trying to like fix different situations within the company. And every company you go has different situations. You know, some you go to a different place and you realize, hey, it's better in this situation, but you realize soon after that, hey, this one is not done properly, right? You know, so there's a lot of this kind of things that happens that people don't usually see. But if it does help mentally to alleviate, you know, that kind of like being stuck in a situation where you are in now. And it's only natural for you to jump, like, you know, go from one place to another to sort of learn different perspectives, different way things are run and different things like that. And I would say it also helps with like if you are looking to stay in the same industry, it's something that is natural, and it's something that, you know, you shouldn't feel like it's not a good thing to do lah. Of course, if it's also a too short frame of time, then there's something else that, you know, as employers, we'll also look at it like, we'll also start asking questions and different things like that.
Right.
So I hope it answers the question.
Yeah, there's a follow-up question from the Q&A, which I feel actually I would love to hear from all of you. It's really about like, so I'm just gonna press the button once again. Okay, so the question is about really like, as someone who hasn't entered the industry, doesn't know what to look out for, like red flags or green flags, how do they know they're not selling themselves out to be like completely drained of life, like crazy OT and work at 3 a.m. So I would love to hear like what are the green flags or red flags, and can share not just from your personal experience as like owners or employees, but maybe even things I've heard from our experiences from friends that we work to. Yeah. So what are the green flags and red flags of animation industry?
Yeah, maybe I can just chip in a little bit, continuing from there. Green flags and red flags from the industry. Well, the Singapore industry, like what I mentioned, right? It's one that is really fast paced, and it's really like what Choon mentioned also. It's all about efficiency and getting things done quickly. And honestly, coming from well, I guess like all our sort of like students' mentality, or even like people emerging that are looking at work of the highest level, we always put ourselves up to like the highest standards. And even when we're creating our own work, that's even when we get more critical on that, right? So I think in that case, we have to just understand, like I would say, for the situation of the whole industry in general, like what is, like maybe just kind of asking seniors around you or things like that, what is things that are happening in the industry, so you get a better glimpse of what's kind of going on, things like that. Like if I just saw the question as well, you had like points that you said like you're working like do 3 a.m. and unpaid OT and do 3 a.m. and stuff like that, which is like, honestly, if I were to just be brutally honest, if you ask me, like that's what happens everywhere in our society in Singapore, and it's never a thing that would be solved from an employee's perspective. It's like, oh, why are you like kind of like slave driving me until like 3 a.m. And then employee's perspective is like, why is your efficiency not there? So it's like it's never really a thing that we can solve. But like I think what's needed is from that perspective, if that happens right in a positive environment in a company, they would have a conversation after that where we do, or at least for Genesis, what we do is an AAR, which we call a after action review. And what we do is that we actually evaluate the situation, understand, okay, we work until like 3 a.m. and then what was the cause for that? And then from there, what are the things we evaluate ourselves from different perspectives? We put everything on the table, and that kind of transparent, open culture, which is something that we really value. And just kind of saying, like, okay, what can be improved on, and just being open to feedback and things like that. And that's something that's, I think the 3 a.m. thing can really, honestly, in this Singapore industry, cannot be avoided. But how do we embrace that situation and just pivot from that and then do better after that? And I think that's something that we do have to look out. And I think that's that green flag that you're looking out for. The red flags, that thing 3 a.m. is not, it's, I think for us as employers, we don't want anybody to be working so late, honestly. Like if we can control the environment, control the industry, and control the deadlines of the client, we want us to take as much time as possible to kind of finish it. Of course, I think we all have good intentions, but when things are like that, we just have to as a whole team, we all hold each other together, like hand in hand, and just kind of like dash it through, and then kind of figure out from there as a team again, how do we like overcome that? And I think that's what's important.
Actually, can I add on to that? I completely agree, even though I'm not in the animation industry. And it's very difficult to just say what Benjamin has said, because you are basically going into it's a minefield, really, because I have been on the other side where I was fresh grad and I was so angry. I used to hate Jeffrey Katzenberg. I used to hate what's the other guy? The other guy, I forgot his name, but he wrote this book called Creativity Inc., which is about creativity and running a company of creatives. It's a great book. And was Ed Catmull, that was his name. I hated them because I thought for them that they represented the idea of like basically exploiting workers on a mass scale when it comes to animation. Because animators, we love our craft so much, right, that we're willing to. This is what I said at one point to my peers when I was in university. I said, if Ghibli Studios would let me work on their stuff, I'll be willing not to get paid and to sleep under the table just to be working on a Ghibli film. That was what I said to myself. And we are so passionate that sometimes we'll be willing to let ourselves be exploited. But whose fault is that? I really truly understand when somebody says that is the system's fault. There is some truth to that as well. But also we need to understand these things so to understand how to really solve these problems. And actually, I have a very strong belief, right, and I'm willing to be wrong about this, so please feel free to disagree and check with me and talk to me about this. I actually feel like this is a business problem to solve. Because at the Woke Salaryman, when we first started out, actually we it's very different, the kind of tone that you take on when you talk to clients, the kind of changes that you'll be willing to take on. Just this November, actually, early this November, I was working my ass off to the point where I was thinking of quitting the company and just going 9 to 5 or just taking a 6 months break, because all the jobs all came in because it's the end of the accounting year and it's something that I never had to deal with on this scale before, and it's my business, so I had to deal with all of it, and I was drawing so hard and so long until my hand pain, and I was like, what is this nonsense? I don't want to live a life like this. I'm bad in this. But actually, you zoom out, right? This is because all the clients, right, they drag, like stuff that was supposed to be done in August, they drag because November, then the accounting clears. So they drag because there's no cost to them. But when they suddenly need to pass out the accounting, they will all come in and say, hey, I need this done by November. I need this done by November. So we all very big tech. We're very angry. We're very drained also. But actually, this is a seasonal thing, and this is something that is external. And the way you solve it, actually, we talked about it a few simple ways. It's a business problem. You either charge more to the point where if you're working until 3 a.m. every day for 2 weeks in a row, you're getting paid crazy, stupid amounts of money for it. Or you tell your clients, hey, I warning you, you since August drag until now, if you don't confirm with me so that we can publish in October, I'm going to put it to December, and there's no other way to do it. But you can only have this kind of leverage with your clients if you have enough business coming in. So it's a business problem to solve. Right, so I absolutely agree with this thing about not exploiting workers. This stuff about crunch time, for example, in the gaming industry, in the VFX industry, it is a seasonal thing based on the winds of supply and demand and financial year and stuff like that you cannot change. So I love to watch, especially what's happening now in America. They call it the Great Resignation, where droves of people are all resigning because they don't like the way this stuff is. If we can do that in Singapore, that would be great. But where would they go also? What is this new structure that they're moving into? What is this new employment world order that you're moving into? So actually, it's also up to you to create enough value so you have a company or a private limited, right, that is strong enough that you can refuse bad clients. Then you have this kind of structure where you can then start building good culture and building good practices into the industry. But if you don't solve it from a business point of view, it is extremely difficult unless you are a very rich person like, and I don't mean any disrespect to this person, like Phil Knight's son, the son of the owner of Nike, who bought over Leica Studios. They do good work, but I mean, privilege is privilege. Not counting anything against him, but it helps. But we are not born to privilege. We don't have multi-billionaire parents. Then we got to play our cards in life as they're dealt to us. So you have to solve it from a business point of view. Until you solve it from that point of view, you cannot really tackle this problem. You will just quit and then look for another job, and then this new place will have the same problem also. Yeah, that's my 2 cents on it.
How about Sarah and Jolene, like from the perspective of like being in a company instead of running a company? Like, do you guys agree? Yeah, or offer any perspectives about this?
I think main red flag for me, like if you don't enjoy being in the company of the people that you work with, then there's a big red flag already. I don't think you should continue. You would definitely won't enjoy doing overtime, and yeah, just find other people that will help encourage you. Yeah.
I guess for me, I would say that like if you work with a people who are reasonable enough. If your company has a good project manager and you guys are able to talk through the tasks, the amount of time you need to do it, like how much manpower you need, like you need to get more freelancers for this project so that you don't have to OT till this late. I would say that all these are factors to be considered. And if you do sense that the people that you are working with are not reasonable, they're not going to listen to you, then I guess you might consider that you are not really in a very good place. That's all for me.
Right. I see. Moving on from the red flag, green flag kind of question, right? I was wondering whether like for those of you that have had to go through like the process of interviewing others and looking through applications, right? Is there any like maybe pet peeves that you have when it comes to these portfolios, resumes, letters, and conversely also, is there anything that's like make you like look at it, you're impressed or excited, and that makes you want to bring that person in for an interview?
Yeah, I can speak on this, I guess. So pet peeves are, well, I mean, all these are different. Well, everybody has their own like pet peeves, right? And well, I've got my own couple of like lists that we also give in our own like Instagram and everything, where we share, like teach a little bit on how do we like improve your presentation. And one of the pet peeves I would say is like not having an online portfolio. I think that's something that was also mentioned, that you don't have a proper website that's where you can easily share your work properly. I've gotten resumes and the whole collection of portfolio work on a Google Drive, and it's all zipped up in Google. So you have to pretty much download the whole like 1 terabyte worth of like files, and in order to watch the videos, which makes it very inconvenient. So like in a sense, like when you're thinking about presenting, sharing your work over, try to keep it as light as possible. Like just make it as viewable as possible, and just keep it, and give them the choice to like choose on what would interest them. So if you have different like projects and your websites, I think that really would help. Second pet peeve is like the own self, great own self thing on your resume, where you have the bar chart, and then like I'm 10 points on After Effects,
right.
or like 5 points on this and that, like your own self, like grading yourself. So like, yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, I mean, it does give you an indication on, right? It doesn't really, it doesn't really help in terms of like, in terms of that. I feel like it just gives an indication of what you're comfortable and what you're not. So I think that's a little bit of a pet peeve to me, because it's a bit, yeah, I think that's something that just...
Sometimes some people even put like soft skills, right? They're like teamwork, and then there's a bar. Or like,
yeah, correct. And another thing that would really push that I'll take even more interest on a specific piece of someone's portfolio is actually their own work, like the things that they've been doing on their own personal projects. And that's something that would speak to me, because we've been doing a lot of like portfolio reviews on different schools, different polytechnics, and the students that I look at in their portfolio, like whenever they have their own like personal work that is like outside of schoolwork, it speaks loads, because number one is that you're able to look at it and understand their passion, like understand like, okay, this is something that they're able to do it after classes, or like even on the weekends, and then it just shows what this person, where their interest lies. And it's not just group work or school work, and this module, and then I'm just showing you. And that's like that trap that a lot of students fall into, because like it doesn't show that you're interested more than school. And then the second thing is that by looking at all this schoolwork, group work, or things that we aren't able to tell like specifically which part of it you're, even if you're able to highlight, indicate, okay, I did the character design or the texturing, etc., it doesn't really like it's not really clear in a specific video that you're watching. It does not, it's a very gray thing, right? Everything's all mashed up together, it's all composited together. So there's something that it's always hard to see. Whereas like whenever we're looking at a solo individual passion piece, everything is done from you, by you, ideated by you, and it's all like from ground up. So from there, it's a lot easier to understand, you know, what this person is interest is, number one. Number two is also where his skills level is, or where his or her skills level is at that point in time. I think that's something that helps me to understand a little bit better.
Right. Was that maybe if you could enlighten us a little bit, like because Jolene was at Genesis for a year, right? So was that also something that was kind of going through your mind when you reached out to Jolene?
Yeah, for sure. Like I think like I came across Jolene's work, I think when she graduated in it was on display in the Singapore Design. I think what's that place again?
Yeah, Singapore Design Center, like the
Singapore Design Center. Yeah,
that's my grad show.
Yeah, so like just kind of going around the grad show and just kind of looking around at and it's a lot easier back then, right? Like to kind of actually go to a place and see everybody's work on display, and yeah, just seeing like, you know, her. I think kind of looking through her work and the animation work, whether there was a good fit back then. We're kind of looking a little bit more into like a mix of animation, and that's why we were looking for animation students as well. And then also like her unique like illustration style, and she's obviously, as you guys can tell, she's very talented lah. So like it was pretty much a no-brainer for us, you know. We're kind of looking around different people and then like, you know, considering, and that was something that was really interesting. So one thing you can really point out is like she had like her own work as well, if I'm not wrong, and then also like she has a very unique art style, and then she's able to also cater for like our needs back then as a studio. So like, you know, sometimes, you know, when studios or when companies don't really like, you know, take interest in our work, don't necessarily be like, you know, discouraged, because it's not just about the work in that sense. It's also about the studios or the companies point in time, what's their needs and where do they need filling at. And I think that's something that we shouldn't take it too hard as well. Yeah.
Right. There's a question about the personal projects. What are some examples of like personal projects, and if there's a structure or flow?
Well, I think like it really depends on what you're looking to go into. And of course, like if it's animation, you know, there's so many different components of animation. And the bigger the company that you go for, the more specific your role gets. And the smaller the company that you're looking at, the more you're handling in that sense. The more, yeah. So it really depends on like what you enjoy. I think you really need to ask yourself that question. Actually, it's like whether you enjoy you know, storytelling, you enjoy like being good at, you know, for example, being good at storytelling. Let's just put it that way. And then like you can actually do that like through, like, for example, like comics or different things like that, where it's actually more concept driven. You have to write down like key points that you want to tell. You can actually do it through a simpler ways like that. And then whether you can integrate it into, and then your role will kind of go towards that direction. Or if you prefer to do something more of like an art director, and then that's where you sort of have like different sort of solutions, being able to guide a specific project and to sort of speak to the target audience a lot better, the demographics for this specific thing a lot better. So you sort of like demonstrate it with like different projects, with a different, like if you're doing advertising, like a different brand, and then like you know, learn how to like be flexible in applying different styles that resonate.
Yeah. How about Jolene? Like from your perspective, like what made you decide to like join the team at Genesis? Like maybe what were the green flags for you?
I guess the green flags was that when I visited the website, I saw a lot of like very cool looking projects, very nice visuals. And I thought that there was a lot that I could learn from the company and the studio. So it felt like a very good opportunity to me. And I guess that when I first met Ben, he also gave me like a very good impression. He was like quite straightforward. He was like very friendly, and I guess that is to also to do with age. Like he wasn't a lot older than me, so I felt a bit more comfortable in that way. Yeah.
Right, I see. Yeah, that's actually a good tip too, that you should always research the companies that you are applying for. Yeah, so that you get a better understanding of like also what your what kind of experience you're going towards or working towards. Yeah. I think because so when it's now 4:10, I think we can have one final question and then we can wrap up the webinar. So the final question I have is what do you think? What would you like the future of the art industry or animation industry in Singapore to be like in like 5 years from now?
Well, that's a very hard question. Maybe I go first lah.
Can
Just
be
get mine out.
can be yeah. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Actually, I just hate to be the economic party pooper again lah, but I just think the realities of doing technical work means that in a labor intensive kind of work which animation is, that to fight along the same lines of basically providing technical labor is not very sustainable, especially when our regional neighbors are getting better. And as the barriers between remote working are getting increasingly broken down more and more, with internet speeds getting faster than ever before, there are things that people can do. For example, like I have a friend who owns a creative agency, and what she does, right, she hires somebody from Indonesia, I believe, and this person will sit on a Zoom call in a meeting with the clients, and as the client is presenting or talking to the client is like saying what they want from a video or whatnot, right? The storyboarder is drawing it as they talk, and apparently the prices of such a service to be done regionally, right, is like 1/5 what it would cost for to get somebody the same of the same talent quality level to do it here. So it's very rough. I hope that actually Singapore becomes a conceptual or sort of production hub, meaning, right, that we're able to combine our technical skills with soft skills so that we're able to sell, to negotiate, to lead, to manage, so that we then become the center of where business flows, and then we delegate to other our regional neighbors lah. And I'm not trying to be biased or whatever, because I'm Malaysian, okay, I'm from one of these neighbors lah. I'm just saying very frankly lah, right? So it's a very, very, very scary thing, because also as my role in this medtech marketing role, right, I've had to interview people from other countries, and the kind of hunger that you get, it is very difficult to get into Singapore nowadays because of the government shifting policies when it comes to hiring overseas employees. So there's a quota and things like that. But the amount of people that want to get in, just get the foot in the door to do any job in Singapore, to just get their PR or their, sorry, not PR, their working pass here, is a lot of people. And there are a lot of people who are already here, who want to switch jobs, who will do whatever at whatever salary, right, to be able to stay here during the COVID period, to be able to still earn Singapore dollar. It's a real thing, and it's extremely scary. So I'm saying it from a cautionary point of view. I think we need to become conceptualizers. We need to become storytellers to do our original work. The reason why a lot of businesses in Singapore is because of taxes, and also because actually Singapore is a very stable government, relatively speaking. That's why Salesforce is here. That's why LucasArts is here. That's why all your big international MNCs, a lot of them are here as a regional hub or headquarters. They're not in Malaysia, they're not in Indonesia, they're not in Philippines as much. So Singapore also has a lot of things going for it outside of just animation, economically and politically, that makes it very attractive. And there's also a lot for us to gain if we try to leverage that attractive aspect of Singapore. The thing is, we just cannot fight on the same grounds as our regional competitors, because we don't have the same kind of resources. We don't have the same kind of cards on our hands. So I just think we need to go conceptual and become also very soft skill proficient. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to agree with Wei Chun also. Yeah, and I think in a sense, from all the different things that we've been speaking, it's also very clear, in a sense, that our neighbors are also a lot. There's also a lot more people there, and also in general, there's also so much talented people there that are able to do it at a lower cost. So it's essentially at a fraction of price. Like one Singaporean, if we hire, we can find like maybe 2 to 3 people working, at the same cost. So it's a very financial thing, whether we like it or not. It's whether the moment when we are talking about a job, whether we're talking about anything that's related to an income, it starts to get related to financials and different things like that. So we just have to be a bit more wary that animation alone, doing the craft alone is really, when I see it, it's really not enough just being a master at that, unless you're really, really one of super top and really is kind of scouted by people in Hollywood and things like that. You have to learn how to adapt and sort of be more of like a Swiss knife, whether you're mixing it out with like soft skills. And the thing that I found as doing business in Singapore, it's something that's great about us and our culture, is that English is our first language, and we are sort of where we can sort of work in different people around the world, whether it's more towards the West, or whether it's in Europe, or whether it's in China or in India, or different things like that, right? We are pretty much like all the different cultures in one thing, and we are like that hub, like what Choon said. And so like to be able to I also do see ourselves as being more of a financial hub where you put different pieces coming together, and we also set the direction for a lot of different things. So setting, translating a Western idea, and then how do we translate into for the China market, for example. Like it's something that only Singapore, in that sense, like people in this region, especially in Singapore, can really do in that sense, to understand from different perspectives and culture. So I think that's something that it's important to look at. And yeah.
Lingual, would you have anything to add in terms of this, like your vision for the future?
I think Wei Chun has shared it quite well in terms of being able to conceptualize. I was reading very recently, there were 3 groups of people that will thrive in this new economy. The first one are those who are able to work creatively with intelligent machines, and I'm talking about like maybe AI or and then the second group of people are people who are very good at what they do. So therefore, I would encourage you to continue to never, be complacent, to always be sharpening your craft, right? Even we are at a rare level where we feel like, oh, we're there. But I think it's always good to continue to speak to mentors, speak to fellow collaborators. And I think the creative journey can be rather daunting. So that's why it helps, for panel sessions like these, even just attend and then glean some insights. And sometimes it's also very inspiring, right, to hear from fellow like-minded enthusiasts. And of course, the third group of people that will thrive would be people with capital. So if you don't belong to the third group, I think it's also a good time to then grow your capital, while at the same time working on 1 and 2.
Yeah, Wei Chun, Work Salaryman has great advice on how to grow your capital.
I never say, you say one, okay. But thank you.
I have you say.
So thanks, Jia and panelists, for having that straight talk session. I think that's helped a lot of our audience quite a bit. We've heard perspectives from, someone who's a little bit more senior or been in the business for a longer time, and also fresh graduates who've been in the business for about 2 years. I think before we close off, I just want to run through our festival outline one more time, just to remind people that there are 5 more days to the festival. So this was the Beyond Animation, What's Next for Creative Graduates panel. On Tuesday, 23rd November at 8 p.m, we have another panel called Developing the Animation Industry, and it's more on the role of education. It's also an online panel at 8 p.m. On 24th November, Wednesday, 7 p.m, we have a screening in person at SCAPE Gallery for the festival program. On 25th of November, Thursday, 8 p.m., we have another online panel on the future of monetizing in animation. And on 27th November, Wednesday, we have an in-person screening at 1 p.m. for the feature film Tatsumi, also at SCAPE Gallery, and a 3 p.m. panel online for the Q&A session with Tatsumi. And then we wrap it up on Saturday, 27th November at 8 p.m. with our online screening for the Golden Durian Awards ceremony and our virtual after party at Cryptovoxels. So if you haven't got your tickets yet, please do at cartoonsunderground.com. Tickets and passes are still available. So do grab yours and we will hopefully see you for the rest of the panels. But otherwise, thank you guys so much. Thank you, panelists, for your time. It's been 2 hours, 20 minutes. Thank you so much for tuning in, and for our audience also, and we hope you guys enjoyed it.
Thank you so much, everyone.